Today's lesson is on cell structure and function. Feel free to comment any topic suggestions below. So let's start by describing what a cell is. The cell is the basic unit of life, meaning that in order for an organism to be considered living, it needs to be composed of at least one cell, which is one reason why viruses are non-living. Living organisms are either unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular meaning composed of one cell, or multicellular meaning composed of multiple cells, like humans that are composed of trillions of cells. All vital functions of organisms are carried out inside of cells. For example, photosynthesis that is carried out in plant cells and some protist cells. Cells can replicate themselves, which is how organisms grow and reproduce. There are two types of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Both contain a cell membrane, cytoplasm, DNA, and ribosomes. However, the major difference is that the DNA of eukaryotic cells is contained in a membrane-bound nucleus, whereas the DNA of prokaryotic cells flows freely in the cytoplasm. Also, eukaryotic cells have many membrane-bound organelles that prokaryotic cells lack. Prokaryotes, organisms with prokaryotic cells, are unicellular, while eukaryotes, organisms with eukaryotic cells, are often multicellular. So let's start by describing the structure of prokaryotic cells, examples of which are bacteria and archaea. Some prokaryotic cells have a capsule, which is an outer layer that prevents the cell from drying out or being engulfed by larger organisms. They also have a cell wall, which gives the cell its structure and protects the cell, and a cell membrane, which is a bilayer of phospholipids and proteins that controls movement of molecules in and out of the cell. The cytoplasm is a gel-like material in which the ribosomes and genetic material are suspended. DNA carries the genetic information of the cell, and ribosomes' function is to make proteins. Pili are hair-like structures attached to the outer layer that helps attach the cell to surfaces, and flagellum helps the cell move around. Now let's move on to eukaryotic cells, which include cells of animals, plants, fungi, and protists. I'll be describing the animal and plant cells. Animal cells are surrounded by a cell membrane composed of phospholipid bilayer proteins, cholesterol. A single phospholipid molecule is composed of a hydrophilic head and two hydrophobic tails. The hydrophilic head has a strong affinity for water, and the hydrophobic tails are water resistant. Therefore, the cell membrane is arranged so that the hydrophilic heads of the phospholipid face both the water-based interior and exterior of the cell. Cell membranes also contain proteins, including integral proteins that span the membrane and serve as membrane transporters. The function of the cell membrane is to control the movement of substances in and out of the cell. The cell membrane is semi-permeable, meaning only specific materials are allowed to enter the cell. Small molecules like water and carbon dioxide can pass through the lipid bilayer, but larger molecules like glucose pass through the protein channel. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid that fills up the cell surrounding the cell's organelles, and it is the site for several chemical reactions within the cell. The nucleus is known as the control center of the cell, since it contains the genetic material required for the cell's processes. The nucleus is enclosed by the nuclear membrane, which is a porous double phospholipid bilayer that maintains the shape of the nucleus, and its function is to allow selective flow of molecules into and out of the nucleus. Going back to the double bilayer description, the nuclear membrane is composed of two lipid bilayers as shown in this illustration. The nucleus is filled with nucleoplasm, which is a gel-like fluid, and it contains DNA, which carries the genetic information for the development and functioning of the organism. The nucleolus is a dense region of RNA within the nucleus, and its function is to produce ribosomes. Ribosomes are molecules that make proteins by linking amino acids. Outside the nucleus, you find the endoplasmic reticulum, a complex network of tubular membranes. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, rough ER and smooth ER. Rough ER contains ribosomes, which gives it its rough appearance, and is therefore the site of protein production, and another function is to transport those proteins. And smooth ER contains no ribosomes. Its function is to produce lipids, cholesterol, and hormones, and to break down toxins. The Golgi body is a stack of flat membrane sacs. Its function is to package proteins and lipids into membrane-bound vesicles, such as lysosomes. Mitochondria are double-membraned organelles. The inner membrane is folded, and the function of mitochondria is to produce energy in the form of ATP via a process called cellular respiration. The more mitochondria a cell contains, the more energy it releases. And mitochondria contain their own DNA. DNA that is different from the cell's DNA because they are believed to originally be of bacterial origin. Lysosomes are membrane-bound organelles produced by the Golgi body that contain digestive enzymes to help destroy invading bacteria and viruses. So this eukaryotic cell looks like the typical animal cell. Now let's take a look at the plant cell. Plant cells have a lot of the same organelles as animals. However, plant cells have some additional organelles, such as the cell wall, a rigid outer layer of polysaccharides which separates the cell from its external environment and provides shape, support, and protection to the cell. Plant cells contain a large vesicle called the vacuole, which contains water and nutrients, and its function is to provide structural support. Plant cells also contain chloroplasts, organelles that contain a green pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll captures energy from the sun for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use sunlight, energy, carbon dioxide, and water to create oxygen and glucose. So that concludes the cell structure and function lesson, but let's have a quick quiz. So question 1 asks, is this cell eukaryotic or prokaryotic? So the cell is eukaryotic since it has a nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles which prokaryotic cells do not have. Question 2. Which of the following organelles are present in bacteria and plant cells but absent in animal cells? Chloroplast, DNA, or cell wall? Chloroplasts are only present in plant cells. DNA is present in all cells, so the answer is the cell wall, since it is absent in animal cells but present in both bacteria and plant cells. Question 3. What is the function of the cell membrane? Is it to support the cell, store water, or control the entry and exit of materials? So the answer is C, controlling entry. Question 4. Where are ribosomes produced? Endoplasmic reticulum, nucleolus, or mitochondria? And the answer is ribosomes are produced in the nucleolus. Question 5. Identify this organelle. Rough ER, smooth ER, or Golgi body. And we can see the presence of ribosomes, meaning that it is the rough ER. So that brings us to the end. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in our next